Good morning and welcome to a special edition of Bird News and Views. I'm your host, Don Burgess, and our guest this morning, all by himself, he doesn't need two wingmen to help him out on this, is Deputy Premier and Home Affairs Minister Walter Roban. Welcome.
Good morning, Don, and good morning to Bird News and good morning to Bermuda.
Just want to let our listeners know that if you have any questions for the minister in regards to Riddells Bay and the special development order, you can post a comment, and we may see if we get to some of your questions. But why don't we start off first, for those people who don't know what a special development order is, just explaining what it does and what the process is.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for having me again, Don. A special development order is a form of development approval that is available under the Development and Planning Act, and it allows for certain types of development under specific conditions that it is perceived, and after advice and scrutiny and subject to certain environmental impacts and other reviews, is seen as in the national interest and a means of bringing about reasonable, sensible development.
And in the case of Riddells Bay, why was one necessary?
Well, Riddells Bay was required for a number of reasons. One, the application that went to the planning board went through the proper process, was subject to the same review and scrutiny and consideration as any other planning application of that type. But the board did not have the capacity under the Bermuda Plan to approve the application due to the variety of zonings and considerations that were in the Bermuda Plan. So after that, there were a couple of options that could have been taken. It could have gone through the normal process of appeal by the applicant to the minister, one which the minister could have then given a decision, or the other was to bring about the development through a special development order, which is what, based on the advice and considerations by the technical officers, was chosen to be done. Because of all the variety of considerations, it was felt that this type of development was actually in the national interest and merited the opportunity to be approved through a special development order, which would go to the legislature for approval.
Okay, so how was this in the national interest, and what is this development proposed to do?
It is proposed to do two primary things. One is to allow for the development of 18 lots, which is about 25% of the 98 acres of land, and also to convert what is now primarily an area of a mix of open space and recreational zoned land and a small bit of nature reserve into primarily conservation, open space, woodland reserve, and nature reserve. So it is going to convert 75% of the land into actually protected reserve land that cannot be developed, and also will be open to the public for certainly use, i.e. the public will be able to go there and as they cannot do now, even though it's private land, the public will be able to go there and have the opportunity to appreciate the protected land that will be there for in perpetuity and available to them to enjoy.
Okay. Just so people can get an idea of how much land this is going to be for nature reserve protected. I think you described this in the past as large as, or just slightly larger than Spittle Pond.
Yes, this will be one of the largest pieces of land to be put into a protected zoning. The only piece of land that is larger than that, which is 65 acres, which is Spittle Pond.
Okay.
It is, even the botanical gardens is about half the size of this area of land that will be protected. areas such as you can compare to the Walsingham Trust, which is also private land, which is under protected zoning and has some accessibility to the public. This is one of the most substantial creations of protected land in recent memory.
Now, because this is being developed by a private group, and you mentioned that in perpetuity that the conservation lands will be protected. So that's written into the agreement. It's not like in 25 years or 99 years they can change the agreement.
No, it is. I would say that is, by me saying perpetuity, that is a fair description. The only way that could be changed is if you have to come back to the legislature to change the zoning. Now, what is the prospect of somebody doing that? I think is extremely, extremely low, that you would take land which is being protected, and mindful that Bermuda has precious limited land.
Okay.
Okay, the only way to actually to change that would be to come back to the legislature to have both houses of the legislature approve the releasing of that zoning. And one of the things we intend to do is to be actually going forward is to provide additional protections for land of this nature going forward. But in my specific to Riddells Bay, no, you can't just change a switch and then unprotect the land. That would not be done. It has to go through a rigid process of releasing such protections. And that is not something that I believe any government would look fondly on in any event and probably would not approve.
For the developers, when they go to develop and change things around, according to the environmental impact studies, are there any considerations that they have to make sure that they protect?
Yes, part of the conditions that is attached to the SDO is that they will have to maintain the land and also restore it. I mean, the conservation management plan that's attached with it talks about taking areas now that are overgrown with invasives and putting back endemics, putting back plants and varieties that are indigenous to Bermuda, and making changes to the landscape that will improve it and bring it and even make it more healthy. I think there's a sort of misnomer or misinformation that somehow golf courses are protected land. They are not. Right now, the land at Riddells Bay is zoned recreational. That is not a protection designation. That is a development designation. It means that certain types of development can be done within a recreational space, such as a golf course. You could actually put up an amusement park there. You could put a racetrack there right now, or even a horse track, or a field to play football or rugby with adjacent development to support that. What we're doing is actually, through the process of the SDO, is eventually changing the zoning so that the majority of the land that's there will actually be under protection zonings, not development zonings. So that means that no one can go there and develop the land. The only action which the developer will be required to do is to maintain the quality of those zonings so it can be a proper nature reserve, a proper open space, a proper woodland reserve, and proper protected areas. So they are required as part of the process to restore and to preserve the land within those zoning classifications.
I don't know if they shared with you, how are they, I mean, because this is a long-term commitment to maintain it. Are they expecting to make enough money off of selling the lots to put into a fund to take care of the land going forward?
The financial plans that I've seen, yes, and part of the ongoing support for that will come from certain fees and obligations that are paid for by those persons who will purchase those lots that are identified. So the owners of the lots that are the subject of the SDO will essentially be financing the continued maintenance of the areas that will be under protection.
Diane Brewer has a question, and she says, are you concerned that this sets a precedent of losing 60 acres of recreational land? And I actually think you said it was 64 acres are going to be protected. It's another 25 or so that
Um,
that are becoming lots and not going to become recreation.
Mr. Mr. Burns, I think it needs to be clear that Ms. Brewer is not actually asking that question as a journalist. She's also a part of the group of objectors to this actual the development. I see you have her in the frame of a journalist, but she's actually one of the people groups that's part of the objectors. I think that's good for public disclosure at this point. I'm happy to answer her question, but there isn't a loss of 60 acres of recreational land. The land is being converted from a less protected zoning to a more protected zoning. So one has to ask, if you're converting a recreational space, which was a golf course, to actually an area which is subject to all types of exposure and usage, to an area that actually will be turned into a reserve and a different variety of zonings of reserve, where the land will not only be protected, but also within those within that protection, there are certain obligations to maintain the land in a certain state.
Right.
And that means to maintain the health of the land, to maintain the land in a way that will ensure its long-term sustainability. So I understand the point about the conversion from recreation to like something else, but I would not term it as a loss. I would term it as a gain in more land that will be available to the public to enjoy than we have now.
Right.
Right now, under the current zoning and under the current state, the land stands idle, derelict, and uncared for. There will be a requirement to care and maintain the land under the new zonings, as are the conditions of the SDO and the conservation plan. So it'll be an improvement, not a loss.
How much will this project help stimulate the economy?
The projections of the developers is that at least $75 million of investment will be put into this development. And that may not also include the ongoing maintenance into perpetuity of the actual newly zoned conservation areas. So at least in the actual development itself, the expectation based on the estimates of the developer is $75 million plus dollars.
Anthony Lee posed a question, just to summarize it. Is the owners of these lots that are being developed, are they paying maintenance fees to upkeep the conservation areas?
My understanding, that's a part of the arrangement, that the owners of the lots, and I think I mentioned this before, will actually be paying for the upkeep. That's will be a part of their obligation with the purchase of their lots and the development of their lots.
Okay.
They'll be a part of a structured program that will fund the ongoing care and maintenance of the reserve area.
You mentioned before different types of areas within the conservation area, and in your speech to the House of Assembly, you talked about passive recreation. But what does that mean? Like walking areas, or what is passive?
Yeah, there'll be areas where people can go, where there'll be obviously perhaps trails and fauna and other features that will be there for their enjoyment. I suspect that some people may be involved ultimately with providing tours of the area, because if you think about it, the whole area that is over 90 acres. It's somewhere between 98 about around 93 and 98 acres of land. That's an enormous parcel of land just alone where it is now. So with the transition, based on what the SDO lays out and all the supporting requirements, there'll be a substantial amount of nature reserve and natural environment that people can go and enjoy. There'll be some areas that they won't be able to enjoy, just like you can't go to some areas around by Cooper's Island, because that's where the kahals are held. You have very restricted access, because you're trying to preserve the land in its natural state. So the effort will be to restore the land, keep it as a nature reserve, limit, I guess, human access so that those qualities can proliferate and be sustainable. And then there'll be other areas where people can go and within certain requirements, because it is private property, well, they'll be able to access and enjoy.
Right.
And I think that is a very good opportunity that Bermudians will have for land that has not had, that has been privately and had limited and exclusive access for over 100 years, or actually about 100 years, because the Riddells Bay Act that originally established the Riddells Bay development was passed in 1921. So you're talking about nearly 100 years of exclusive and restricted access, which will be now open.
For you, what's the most exciting part? You've been talking a lot about the conservation area, being down there on the property. What do you see the potential as?
Well, I talk about that because that to me is perhaps the most exciting part of it. I will always advocate for more land that we can identify in Bermuda to either be used responsibly or preserved for restoration, for rejuvenation, and for sustainability. So that is perhaps the most exciting part, that we're going to take land that really has only operated as a recreational space to the enjoyment of the few, that will be potentially restored into a more natural state that more of our residents and our citizens can enjoy. But I'm also excited about the development and the jobs and the economic activity that it will bring with the development of those lots. And I think that's also an exciting prospect as well. Everybody knows the economic situation that the country faces. So this is $75+ million that's now not being spent, that will go towards development. It will go towards activity. It will go towards growth and an opportunity for a lot of our residents and services that will go towards ensuring that those developments are completed if this SDO is successfully taken through the legislature.
So when do you see the process of actual work starting there? You know, if when do you see it getting approved and then moving on to actual shovels in the ground?
Well, my understanding from communications with the developer that they're ready to go right now. They're like finances in place. They literally can start the work to do the development as soon as possible. But I will tell you this, they've already started the ecological or environmental restoration. So work has already started on aspects of what this whole development means. I know some people will spend a lot of their time preoccupied with the 18 lots and the developments associated with that. But the other part of this, which I think brings even more to Bermuda, because you can build a house, and once you build the house, the building is done. The activity finishes. But with a nature reserve, there's the ongoing care and maintenance that, to me, can spin off into so many different things. It obviously will create work for people who will maintain it. It can also bring, and this is where the public interest, it becomes an educational opportunity for people who are interested in the environment, interested in sustainability, interested in issues like climate change, and how we in Bermuda can preserve more of our land and do things to resist that change, and how we're going to protect Bermuda's natural environment. It provides another opportunity to see that in action. There are so many spin-offs, not only on the economic side, but also on the environmental side, which I believe make this such an exciting opportunity for the island and for so many other people.
Well, I guess some people might have a complaint that these are homes for the wealthy, and they'd like to see affordable housing built. How would you respond to that?
Well, affordable housing can be addressed, and my colleague, Colonel Burtz, will be probably happy to talk to you about his drive and vision for that. But what is happening at Riddells Bay is another opportunity for Bermuda to attract investment, attract activity and interest from persons who can spend money. I think we accept that we need more activity, and I don't think we as an island, have ever apologized that we like to attract wealthy, prosperous people here to enjoy what we are proud of. And if this development does that, that creates another opportunity for us to showcase the Bermuda that we love. So there are like developments that are focused on attracting high net worth persons. I don't have any difficulty with that, but I also know that we certainly have done a lot on the other end as well. Riddells Bay is the subject of a particular type of development, and I do believe that will be good for Bermuda.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a chance to have a last word before we wrap up here. I don't know if you're going to cabinet at 1 o'clock today, if you're involved with that, but you probably have a busy schedule today. So, what are your last thoughts that you'd like to depart to the public?
Well, I look forward to the opportunity to talk to Bermuda about what this particular development and why the government has taken this route to bring it about. I believe that the process that we're using has been open and transparent. Every document that anybody wishes to see that's been the subject of this plan, in certainly through my period as minister and preaching that, anybody can go to the planning department or go online and view to see the process of the development. I look forward to not only this development, but others that will bring value to Bermuda. Because I believe not only does the development of the actual 18 lots bring value, I believe the creation of the environmental like protected space will also bring value. I think that we as a country should be proud of our record on attempting to preserve land for the use of environmental interests and public interest, and we should continue to see that as also a part of our goal with development, and that we can balance the opportunity to grow the economy, create jobs, and create economic activity with our efforts to protect our natural environment. I believe this is just one example of that. There are examples in the past of that, and certainly as part of a Progressive Labour Party government, I will always strive to find that balance for our people, and so that Bermudians can continue to be proud of us as a country and our record of ensuring protection for our natural environment.
All right. I appreciate your time this morning, and I know we didn't get to all the questions there, but maybe you can go onto the Facebook page and answer them for the people that have posted the last two questions, unless you want to do it right now.
Well, yeah, I will happily go, and perhaps it'll give me an opportunity to give more fulfilled answers if after this program, I will work on answering those questions. And certainly if anybody wants to send me any other questions before the discussion in the legislature on Friday, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, because Anthony Lee, after I started to wrap up, Anthony Lee and Kimberly Brewer posted a couple questions. So we'd be very grateful if you did that as well. So appreciate your time. And I think I said cabinet at 1 o'clock, but it's actually at Government House at 1 o'clock. So
yes.
Yeah. Are you going to be there?
I may be there.
Okay. All right. All right. We want to thank the Deputy Premier and Minister of Home Affairs, Walter Roban, for being with us this morning. Very gracious. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and we'll happily come back and participate again if time and the topic allows. Happily, we'll do so.
Very much appreciated. I'm your host, Don Burgess, and as always, have a beautiful day.